Hi guys, today we're going to further our conversation about food chains and sort of talk about what actually happens in ecosystems. Because what happens when we talk about food chains is we talk about this linear succession, right? We start with a producer like grasses or a plant. And then we have a first level consumer, which is an herbivore, and a second level consumer, which is a carnivore. And it kind of goes in a straight line. But that's not really what happens in ecosystems. Of course, in ecosystems, there's all kinds of branches sticking out. And what we end up with is what we call a food web. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and we're going to go over a couple of the points of a food web. All right. So a food web is a what happens when animals or food um, appear in multiple food chains, right? So, like a food chain, a food web starts with producers. That can be plants or algae or anything else that is a producer, phytoplankton, anything that makes its own food. And then we start with our consumers. Our first consumers are usually our herbivores. Um, so those are um, animals that will eat just the plants, or when we're talking about a pond food web, we're talking about the animals, um, shrimp or crabs or something else that eats the algae growing in the pond. So then we go on to apex consumers, which are carnivores or omnivores that have very few predators. All right, so let's look again. Food webs are the same cycle as a food chain. We've got our producer, consumers, and apex consumers, and decomposers. We don't talk a lot about our decomposers when we're talking about our food webs, but they all are there. We've talked about them before. Those are snails and slugs and worms and bacteria and fungi that break down dead material and turn it into nutrient rich soil, which then the producers grow from. So when we talk about a food chain, it's going to look like this, or like I said, a vertical line straight up with the producer at the bottom and then the apex carnivore at the top. But what really is happening in our ecosystems is more like this, right? There's many different animals that are going to eat the producers, the grasses, the herbs, fruits, vegetables. And then there's also many different animals that are going to eat those first level consumers, right? So you can see, the cricket gets eaten by the bird or the mouse. The chipmunk can get eaten by a hawk, an owl, a fox. So all of these things sort of interrelate. And that is what the difference is between food webs and food chains. So let's go back to, hi, let's go back and I'm going to share with you one other thing. And then we're going to talk about how I want you to do your next assignment. So if you will bear with me, I want to, nope, I can't do it. Never mind. So the one other thing I want to share with you, and let me see if I can get to this. So this is, all right. So this is a little food chain game where it shows you, different animals and what you eat, what they eat, and then who eats them. And, yep. I did that one the wrong way. So it's kind of an interesting way to look at how many different animals there are and the different I'm not getting all of these correct. Um, the different links between these animals. Um, so um, you can see, no, the wolf eats somebody here. There we go. Actually eats that too. No. All right. So you can see that there's a bunch of different lines. These are actually kind of hard to figure out who eats who. But you can see that there's a lot of different um, pieces to this, and that, you know, everybody ends up taking part in this food chain. And it's a food web. It kind of all spins around and ends up sort of looking like almost a little bit of a spider's web. So, all right, hold on, let me stop that share. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to have you guys do is write out a food web, and you can pick any ecosystem you want to do this. So you can do a pond, you could do the ocean, you could do the forest, you could do mountains, and I'm going to show you an example. And then I'm going to put some examples into Google Classroom so you can really do this. You do not, the examples I'm showing, 2 of them have pictures. You can print little pictures if you want, you can draw little pictures that you want, or you can just do the name of the animal. This is completely up to you. I don't want this to be a high stress assignment. So I'm going to show you my pictures here. All right, so you're going to write out a food web. It can be a simple to elaborate, your choice, and the samples will be available in Google Classroom. So this one has drawings and words, and it was just done on regular notebook paper. This one was done on a computer. They made a picture for me, and they wrote out the words, the names of the animals. This one used cut out pictures from a magazine and then took a picture of this. You do not need to have the listing of who is a producer, a primary consumer, secondary consumer. I do not need that much detail. This was a 5th grade project. So you can keep it real simple, but if you would rather use pictures that you screen grab online or out of magazines, feel free to do that. All right. I look forward to seeing what you guys do. Remember, low stress. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to email me, okay? And I'll see you soon. Bye.